Mom texted, "You're not coming to the cruise. Brody's girlfriend needs your cabin." This was hours before the trip I paid for. I texted back, then let Brody handle the extras too. By morning, I had every booking canceled and watched them lose their minds. All right, Reddit, buckle up, grab your popcorn, and listen to this shit show. I'm Nick, 34 male, and I spent $18,500 on a Mediterranean cruise for my family. And 3 days before departure, my mom texted, "Don't bother showing up. Miley needs your cabin for pregnancy comfort. You understand? Family comes first." I'm sitting in my office in Denver when my phone buzzes. I stared at the screen, read it 3 times, waited for the punchline. It never came. This was about a Mediterranean cruise I'd booked 4 months ago. 12 days, Barcelona to Rome, every port stop planned, every excursion booked. Total cost, $18,500. My money, my planning, my attempt to create one actual good memory with people who'd been using me for 2 decades. And now, 72 hours before departure, I was being uninvited. Like I was some optional upgrade they'd decided to decline. I'm an aerospace engineer, and for the better part of a decade, I'd been playing the role of family safety net. The guy who picked up the phone when dad's truck needed a new transmission. The guy who wired money when mom's medical bills stacked up. The guy who never said no when my older brother Brody needed to borrow cash for his latest scheme. Brody always had been the golden child. He could screw up a wet dream and still get applause from our parents. Me? I had to earn every scrap of acknowledgement, and even then it came with conditions. I worked for a defense contractor in Denver, pulling decent money designing guidance systems for satellites. My condo was paid off. My truck was mine. Brody, on the other hand, had bounced between jobs his entire adult life. Real estate agent, business consultant, cryptocurrency advisor, basically whatever sounded impressive at Thanksgiving dinner, but never resulted in an actual paycheck. Currently, he was between opportunities, which was code for unemployed. 6 months ago, he'd shown up at a family dinner with Miley. 26 years old, looked like she'd stepped out of Instagram, and had this way of touching Brody's arm while talking about their future together. 3 months into dating, she was pregnant. My parents acted like it was the second coming. Dad actually cried. Mom started planning baby showers immediately. I did the math. They'd known each other for 12 weeks. She was already talking about wedding venues and showing off a ring that Brody definitely couldn't afford on his non-existent income. But hey, family comes first, right? Over the past 2 years, I'd given them $71,000. Not loaned, given. Because every time it was a crisis, Dad's medical emergency, Mom's car repair, Brody's rent when he was transitioning between careers, Brody's security deposit, his car payment, his engagement ring apparently, though he'd told me he needed money for a business license. I kept a spreadsheet. Call me petty, but the data showed I was being milked dry. The breaking point started 4 months ago when Dad had a health scare. Heart palpitations. Ended up in the ER. Whole dramatic scene. The bills came to about $8,000 after insurance. Brody promised he'd chip in. Shocking no one. He didn't. So I paid it. Then their mortgage payment. Then their property taxes. I became their financial IV drip, and nobody even pretended to say thank you anymore. That's when I decided to try something different. Instead of just being the bank, what if I created an actual memory? Something good we could all share? So I planned this cruise. 12 days through the Mediterranean. Barcelona to Rome, stopping in Monaco, Corsica, the Greek islands. Top-tier cabins, drink packages, shore excursions, the works. I researched for 6 weeks, booked everything perfectly, sent out the invitations 4 months in advance. Mom cried on the phone. Dad called me son for the first time in years. Brody sent a thumbs-up emoji and immediately asked if Miley could come too, since they were basically family now. I said yes. I upgraded to a bigger cabin so they could have space. I added Miley to all the reservations. The cruise was set to depart Friday morning from Barcelona. I'd taken 2 weeks off work, bought new clothes, downloaded Spanish and Italian language apps. I was actually excited, like genuinely looking forward to being around my family. Then Tuesday happened. That text from Mom. I read it 5 times, each time hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. I called her immediately. "Oh, good. You got my message," she answered, voice bright and cheerful. "What do you mean I'm not coming?" "Well, Nick, Miley's pregnancy has been difficult. She needs the extra space. You know how pregnant women are. And really, you're just one person. Brody has responsibilities now." "I paid for the entire trip, Mom." "Yes, and that's very generous. We're all grateful. But this is about priorities. Brody's starting a family. Surely you understand that's more important than your vacation. My vacation. The one I'd planned and paid for. So I'm supposed to fund a cruise I'm not invited to. You already paid for it, didn't you? It would be wasteful to cancel now. And you offered it as a gift to the family. Brody and Miley really need this. The stress of the pregnancy, you know. Besides, you're single. You're flexible. You don't have the same obligations. The casual dismissal in her voice was impressive. Years of practice, probably. Here's the thing, Mom. The reservation is under my name. All of it. The cabins, the excursions, the dining packages, everything. Pause. Well, you can transfer it to Brody's name, can't you? Actually, I can't. It's non-transferable. And since I'm not going, there's no point in keeping it. Her voice shifted gears. Got sharp. Nick David Collins. You are not canceling this cruise. Enjoy your day, Mom. I hung up and immediately called the cruise line. Spent 45 minutes navigating their phone tree, then another 30 with a representative who sounded genuinely sympathetic when I explained I needed to cancel due to family circumstances. I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Collins. Given that you booked our premium package with full cancellation protection, we can refund 90% of your total cost. The refund will process within 5 to 7 business days. Music to my ears. I got the confirmation email at 5:47 p.m. The cruise was canceled. All cabins released. All reservations voided. $16,650 back in my account. I forwarded the confirmation to the family group chat with one line, trips canceled. Lose my number. Then I blocked every single one of them. I ordered Thai food, cracked open a drink, and watched playoff hockey without checking my phone every 5 minutes. Best Tuesday I'd had in years. The fallout was immediate and nuclear. By 9 p.m., I had 32 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Brody must have been calling from every phone he could find. His office, Miley's phone, random friends, possibly strangers at the gas station. I blocked each one. My email inbox exploded. Subject lines ranging from "please call me back" to "you selfish bastard" to "how could you do this to your family?" I set up a filter. Anything from their addresses went straight to a folder I named Family Circus. Wednesday morning, my doorbell camera caught Brody showing up at my condo. He pounded on the door for 10 minutes, yelling about betrayal and family loyalty and how I'd ruined everything. I was at the gym. Watched the footage during my cool down on the treadmill. He looked like shit, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, eyes red from what I'm guessing was either crying or a hangover. Maybe both. I saved the video, just in case. My co-worker Devin noticed I was in a better mood than usual. We were in the lab running diagnostics on a new tracking system when he asked, "You seem weirdly cheerful. Hit the lottery?" "Better." I cut off my parasitic relatives. He looked up from his laptop. "Seriously?" I gave him the abbreviated version. Devin whistled low. "Damn, that's cold-blooded. That's efficient. Your family must be losing their minds." "That's the point," he grinned. "Good for you, man." I watched my sister do the same thing with our mom. Best decision she ever made. Sometimes you gotta cut the dead weight. That's when I knew I'd made the right call. Thursday afternoon, I got a call from my office receptionist. "Nick, there's a woman here asking to see you. Your mother? Tell her I'm in a classified meeting and won't be available. She says it's an emergency. Tell her to call 911. She tried not to laugh. "Got it." Mom apparently threw a fit in the lobby. Security escorted her out. I sent them a fruit basket the next day. Friday morning, the day we were supposed to fly to Barcelona, I woke up naturally at 7 a.m. No alarm. Made coffee, went for a long run through the neighborhood. The weather was perfect. Clear Colorado sky, temperature in the low 60s. I ran 8 miles, came back, showered, made breakfast. I ate on my balcony, watching the city wake up, feeling zero regret about the family currently not boarding a cruise ship in Spain. Then my phone rang around 10 a.m. unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Nick, it's Miley." Her voice had this breathy, damsel in distress quality that probably worked on Brody, but made me want to check my wallet. "Please, I don't know what's going on between you and Brody, but this is really hurting him. He's devastated. Not my problem. I'm pregnant. We needed this trip. The stress isn't good for the baby." Then Brody should have thought about that before uninviting the guy who paid for the trip. That was your mom's idea. Brody didn't even know until after she texted you. He's so upset. We both are. Can't you just, I don't know, fix this? For the baby's sake? The manipulation was almost artistic. She'd clearly practiced this. Here's what I know, Miley. You've been dating my brother for 6 months. You got pregnant 3 months in. You're now planning a wedding and acting like you're entitled to my money. That math doesn't work for me. That's not fair. You want to know what's not fair? I've given this family $71,000 over the past 2 years. Nobody paid me back. Nobody gave a darn until the money stopped. So yeah, I'm tapped out on fairness. Brody said you were selfish, but I didn't believe him until now. You're such a jerk. Yes, I'm selfish. We done here? She hung up. I blocked her number and made myself lunch. The weekend was quiet, eerily quiet. It felt like the moment in a horror movie when the music stops and you know something's coming. Sunday evening, my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Dad, standing there in his Sunday clothes, hands in his pockets, looking old and tired. I didn't open the door. He knocked. Nick, I know you're in there. Your truck's out front. Let me in. Let's talk about this like adults. I turned up the TV volume. He knocked again. Harder. Nick, please. Your mother's beside herself. Brody's a mess. This isn't who you are? Maybe it wasn't who I was, but it's definitely who I'd become. After 5 minutes, he slipped an envelope under the door and left. I waited until his car pulled away before picking it up. Inside was a note. Nick, your actions have consequences. You've hurt your mother deeply. Your brother is struggling, and you've made it worse. Miley is carrying your nephew or niece. This child deserves better than an uncle who abandons his family over money. If you have any decency, you'll apologize and make this right. We raised you better than this. I read it twice. Then I fed it through my paper shredder and went back to my game. They still didn't get it. The cruise wasn't about money. It was about respect, but they'd never see it that way. In their story, I was the villain, the ungrateful son who abandoned his family in their time of need. Fine. Let them tell that story. I was done auditioning for their approval. Monday morning, I got this bomb. I was in my office reviewing satellite telemetry data when I got a call from an unknown Colorado number. Something made me answer. Mr. Collins, this is Rebecca from First Security Bank. We're calling about a joint account opened in your name. My stomach dropped. What account? A checking account opened 4 months ago with Brody Collins as the co-owner. The account is currently overdrawn by $11,240. We've been trying to reach you for 6 weeks. Son of a biscuit. I didn't authorize any joint account? Sir, we have your signature on the application. No, you have a forged signature. Email me everything. The application, statements, all of it. If I don't have it within 2 hours, I'm filing a police report for identity theft. She agreed. The documents came through 90 minutes later. I reviewed every page. The signature was good. Brody had practiced copying my handwriting from years of forged checks as teenagers. But the address was wrong. The phone number wasn't mine. The email account was some Gmail I'd never seen. I called a lawyer, found one specializing in financial fraud and family law. Her name was Claudia, came highly recommended, and her hourly rate made my teeth hurt. But I was done being cheap when it came to protecting myself. She reviewed the documents in under an hour. This is straightforward identity theft. Your brother forged your signature to access credit using your name and social security number. The bank should have caught it. You've got criminal and civil options here. What do you recommend? File a police report immediately. Let them investigate. Meanwhile, we send cease and desist letters to your entire family. Any further contact from Brody, your parents, or Miley gets documented as harassment. What about the $71,000? You could sue for recovery, but family court is a nightmare. My advice? Consider it an expensive lesson and move on. She was right. Suing them meant months or years of continued contact. Depositions, court dates, mediation. They'd worm their way back into my life disguised as legal proceedings. All right, just the fraud case and the letters. Smart. I'll draft the cease and desist today. We'll send them certified mail, return receipt requested. Once they sign for them, any contact is actionable. I paid her retainer, $5,000, and walked out feeling like I'd finally hired someone on my side. The police report happened Tuesday morning. The detective was this grizzled guy in his 50s who looked like he'd seen every flavor of human garbage. He reviewed my documents, took my statement, gave me a case number. The cease and desist letters went out Wednesday. One to Mom and Dad, one to Brody, one to Miley, even though she'd only been around 6 months, because Claudia said we needed to cover all bases. She's already trying to insert herself as a stakeholder, Claudia explained. Cut that off now. The return receipts came back Friday. Both Mom and Dad signed at 9:30 a.m., probably standing right next to her. Brody's came back at 2:15 p.m. Miley's arrived Monday morning. Claudia called me. They're officially notified. Any contact from this point forward is harassment. Keep documenting everything. I'd already started. New folder on my computer. Screenshots, call logs, doorbell footage. Everything time-stamped and organized. Wednesday, 2 weeks after the canceled cruise, Brody showed up at my gym. I was on the bench press, mid-set, when I saw him in the mirror. He looked worse than before. I finished my set, racked the weights, grabbed my phone and started recording before standing up. You got served, Brody. That means you don't contact me. Leave now or I'm calling the cops. We need to talk. No, we don't. I'm recording this. You can't just cut us off. 9 seconds. Mom's in the hospital. 8 seconds. And she's not. I called to verify. She had a routine checkup. Stop lying. His face went red. You actually called to check? 7 seconds. You're a piece of shit, you know that? 6. He turned and left, muttering something I didn't catch. I sent the video to Claudia immediately. Perfect, she said. He's violated the order twice now. We can file for a restraining order if you want. Not yet. Let's see if he's stupid enough to try again. He wasn't. But the messages didn't stop. They just got more creative. I started getting LinkedIn connection requests from accounts with no history. Facebook friend requests from profiles with 1 photo and 0 friends. Someone tried to log into my Netflix account. My dentist called saying someone had tried to cancel my appointment and request my records be transferred. I put a password on my account. My gym called saying someone had called asking about my membership status and what times I usually came in. They were testing boundaries, seeing what they could still access, what strings they could still pull. I documented everything, built a file that Claudia called prosecutorially meticulous. Most people don't think to do this, she said. But if we need to escalate, you've got a paper trail that would make the FBI jealous. A month after canceling the cruise, I'd locked down my entire existence. New bank accounts at a different institution. New passwords on everything. Bank, email, social media, utilities, medical records. 2-factor authentication on every platform. Credit monitoring with alerts. Changed my gym. Put a note on my medical records that only I could authorize releases. I'd gone into witness protection from my own family. And honestly, it felt fantastic. The silence was strange at first. For years, my phone had been anxiety incarnate. Every buzz could mean an emergency, a crisis, a demand for cash. I'd trained myself to tense up every time it rang. Now when notifications came through, they were actually about my life. Devin asking if I wanted to hit the range this weekend. My buddy Chris from college checking if I was free for the Broncos game. The hiking group I joined confirming Saturday's trail. The best part? I signed up for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is where things got interesting. Let me tell you about it a bit. First class, the instructor, this Brazilian guy named Rodrigo, who looked like he could bench press a truck, paired me with a white belt for practice. Just flow roll, he said. Nice and easy. The guy was maybe 140 pounds. I'm 195. I figured this would be fine. 30 seconds later, I was being choked by what felt like a very determined python that had somehow acquired limbs. I tapped. He let go. I gasped for air like I'd been underwater for 3 minutes. Good, Rodrigo said. Again. This happened 6 more times. By the end of class, I'd been submitted by a guy who weighed less than my gym bag and looked like a strong breeze would blow him over. My ego wasn't bruised. It was in a full body cast. But I went back and kept going. Turns out getting destroyed by people half your size builds character. Also humility. Mostly humility. 3 weeks in, I accidentally kicked Rodrigo in the face during a scramble. Not hard, just a glancing blow, but enough that everyone in the gym stopped and stared. I froze, certain I was about to be murdered by a Brazilian man who could probably tie me into a pretzel. Rodrigo just laughed. Good, you're learning to move. Now 30 burpees for hitting the instructor. I did the burpees. My lungs considered filing a restraining order against me. I loved it. The structure. The fact that nobody cared about my job or my family or anything except whether I could escape side control. It was pure. Simple. I also joined a cigar club that met monthly at this lounge downtown. Bunch of guys from different industries. Finance, law, medicine, one guy who owned a brewery. We'd smoke cigars, drink good stuff, talk about everything except our problems. First meeting, I mentioned I'd cut off my family. Expected judgment. Instead, the lawyer, guy named Tom, just nodded and said, Smart. I did the same thing with my brother 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made. Turned out half the guys in that room had similar stories. The brewery owner hadn't spoken to his father in a decade. One of the finance guys had a sister who'd stolen from him. We didn't dwell on it, just acknowledged it, and moved on to arguing about whether Blanton's was overrated. It is, by the way. I started saying yes to things, work happy hours, weekend camping trips, random Tuesday dinners. All the invitations I declined for years because what if mom called or Brody needed money? Also bought furniture, walnut dining table, bar stools. Spent a Sunday rearranging my condo, stepping back to look at a space that was finally mine. 2 months after canceling the cruise, I booked a trip to New Zealand. 3 weeks solo, hiking, fly fishing, maybe bungee jumping if I didn't chicken out. The travel agent was this older guy named Wayne, who'd been doing this for 30 years. Showed me photos from his own New Zealand trips. Suggested off-grid spots most tourists missed. First solo trip? He asked. You'll love it. Something about traveling alone. You figure out who you are without anyone else's expectations. 3 months later, I was standing in a river in Queenstown, fly rod in hand, mountains everywhere. Not another soul in sight. The fishing guide, a Kiwi named Owen, who looked carved from granite, was showing me how to read the water. See where the current breaks? That's where the browns sit. Cast upstream. Let it drift natural. I cast. Line unfurled perfectly. Fly landed soft. 3 seconds later, a rainbow trout hit it hard enough to make my heart jump. 20 minutes later, I landed a fish. Took a photo, released it, watched it dart back into the current. Natural talent, Owen said. Dangerous with practice. That night, I posted a photo of the mountains at sunset. Caption, finally found what I was looking for. The comments came from Devin, Chris, guys from Jiu-Jitsu, the hiking group. Not a single comment from anyone who shared my DNA. Perfect. Back in Denver, I kept building. Shooting league at the range. Started meal prepping. Made plans for Alaska next summer. Maybe get a caribou hunt lined up. Got promoted at work. Senior systems engineer, 18% raise, better projects. The manager mentioned leadership track. Old Nick would have hesitated. New Nick accepted immediately. Made real friends. The kind who texted to check in, not ask for favors. The kind who showed up when invited. The kind who remembered your birthday without Facebook reminding them. 4 months after the canceled cruise, I'd built a completely different life. One that had nothing to do with my family using me as an ATM. My savings account had numbers I'd never seen before. Retirement maxed out. Actual discretionary income that wasn't already earmarked for someone else's emergency. I was happy. And all it cost was $18,500 and a family who never valued me anyway. But here's the thing. Some people never change. They just get more desperate. 4 months after the canceled cruise, I got a Facebook message from a profile I didn't recognize. Generic name, 1 photo, 3 friends. Obviously fake. The message was from Miley. Nick, I know things are complicated, but Brody's really struggling. The stress is affecting my pregnancy. I'm worried about the baby. Maybe we could meet for coffee? Just you and me. Neutral ground. I think there's been a lot of miscommunication. I stared at it for a solid minute. The manipulation was textbook. Appeal to concern, invoke the baby, offer a reasonable-sounding compromise that would definitely turn into an ambush. I screenshotted it and sent it to Claudia. Add it to the file. Then I blocked the account without responding. 5 months in, I was at REI buying new hiking boots when I ran into someone from my parents' church. Mrs. Callahan, probably 70, known mom for decades. She saw me and her face did this thing where pity and judgment mixed together into something uncomfortable. Nick Collins, I heard what you did to your family. Hi, Mrs. Callahan. Your mother told me everything. How could you abandon them like this? I should have just walked away. Should have grabbed my boots and left. But 5 months of therapy and boundary setting had built a spine I didn't know I had. Did she mention the $71,000 I gave them? Or how Brody committed identity theft using my name? Or how they uninvited me from a cruise I paid for? Her expression flickered. Well, I don't know about all that. That's because she didn't tell you. She told you the version where she's the victim and I'm the villain. That's her specialty. I'm sure there are 2 sides. There are. Mine has documentation. Hers has manipulation. Have a good day, Mrs. Callahan. I bought my boots and left. I didn't feel bad. Just felt done. 6 months after the cruise, I got an email from Dad. Subject line. Important. Please read. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Nick, your mother is in the hospital. Chest pain. Possible heart attack. Thought you should know. She's asking for you. Whatever happened between us, she's still your mother. Dad. I stared at it for 2 minutes. Old Nick would have dropped everything. Would have rushed to the hospital, paid the bills, handled everything. New Nick picked up the phone and called the hospital directly. Hi, I'm Nick Collins. My mother, Isabel Collins, was admitted today. Can you tell me her condition? The nurse checked. She's stable. Routine observation for anxiety-related chest pain. No cardiac event. She'll be discharged tomorrow morning. I hung up and sent Dad a 2-word reply. She's fine. Then I went to my jujitsu class. Got my butt kicked by a blue belt who weighed 160 pounds soaking wet. Showered, grabbed dinner with Devin, didn't think about my family once. That night, my doorbell camera caught motion. Brody, standing on my porch, looking like he'd aged 5 years and 6 months. He didn't knock, just stood there for a minute, staring at the door, then left. I saved the footage and sent it to Claudia. Technically not contact, she said, but we're documenting it. Pattern of behavior. Miley tried again. Different fake Facebook account, same message structure. Brody's really struggling. The baby's due soon. Don't you want to be part of your niece or nephew's life? I reported the account for impersonation and moved on. Then, a few weeks later, the real curveball hit. I was at my desk at work when Devin walked in. Expression strange. You're not gonna believe this. What is it? He pulled up a local news site on his phone. There it was. Headline: Local man arrested for DUI and domestic disturbance. The article was brief. Brody had been arrested after neighbors called police about a loud argument. When officers arrived, he'd been drunk, belligerent, and Miley had a visible bruise on her arm. He was being held on $5,000 bail. Good grief, I muttered. Devin whistled. Think they'll call asking you to bail him out? They can ask. I won't answer. But I was wrong. They didn't ask me. They asked my boss. That afternoon, I got called into a meeting with HR. The woman across from me looked uncomfortable. Nick, we received a call from someone claiming to be your mother. She said there was a family emergency and needed to reach you immediately. What did you tell her? That we couldn't give out employee information. But she was persistent. Mentioned that you'd cut off contact and that your brother was in jail and needed bail money. My jaw clenched. I'm sorry she dragged you into this. It's fine. We deal with this more than you'd think. But I wanted to give you a heads up. She also asked about your salary and whether we could garnish your wages for family support. You're kidding. I wish I was. Obviously, we told her no, but she threatened legal action. I closed my eyes. She won't follow through. She's fishing for leverage. But thank you for letting me know. I walked back to my office and called Claudia. They're escalating, she said. Your mother contacting your employer crosses a line. We can send another cease and desist, this time threatening legal action for harassment. Do it. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Nick, it's Brody. My hand tightened on the phone. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter. Listen, I'm in a bad spot. I need $5,000 for bail. I know things have been rough between us, but no. Nick, come on. I'm sitting in a cell. Miley's alone. She's 8 months pregnant. Not my problem. Jesus Christ, I'm your brother. You committed fraud with my identity. You've harassed me. You violated a cease and desist order. You're only calling because you need money. Again, I'll pay you back. Like you paid back the other $71,000? Silence. Here's the thing, Brody. I'm done. You're an adult. Handle your own mistakes. Lose this number. I hung up, blocked it, sent the call log to Claudia. Perfect, she said. We've got him on recorded contact in violation of the order. I'll draft a motion for a formal restraining order tomorrow. That night, I slept like a baby. Everything got quiet then. Until I heard about this bomb. I was seriously not expecting that. Devin forwarded me a Facebook post. Dude, you need to see this. It was from Miley's Facebook page, marked public. A long, dramatic post about how Brody had been abusive and controlling, how she was raising a baby alone, how he'd turned out to be a deadbeat who couldn't hold a job. But the interesting part was the comments. Some guy I didn't recognize had written, "Didn't you cheat on him, though? Pretty sure that's not even his kid." Miley's response, "That was a rumor started by jealous people." Another comment, this one from a woman. Rumor. "Girl, I saw you with Tyler at the casino. Multiple times. While you were supposedly with Brody. I stared for a second. What the actual heck?" Then more comments. Apparently half of their social circle knew Miley had been sleeping with some guy named Tyler the entire time she'd been with Brody. The timeline put the affair starting before she got pregnant. The baby probably wasn't Brody's. I screenshot everything and sent it to Devin. Well, that's interesting. Interesting? Dude, that's karma in HD. He wasn't wrong. But the universe wasn't done yet. 10 months after the canceled cruise, Claudia called me. You're not going to believe this. The fraud case is moving forward. Brody's being charged with identity theft and fraud. The DA's office wants to know if you'll testify. Absolutely. Good. Trial's set for 2 months from now. Start prepping. The restraining order was granted 2 weeks later. Brody, Miley, Mom, and Dad were legally prohibited from contacting me within 500 feet by phone, email, social media, or through third parties. Life continued getting better. The promotion came with better projects. I was leading a team designing next-gen satellite tracking systems. The work was challenging, engaging, exactly what I'd wanted. I booked another trip, Alaska this time. 2 weeks of fly fishing, hiking, and a caribou hunt I'd been planning for months. Living the life I'd always wanted, but never had bandwidth for. 1 month after that, I got a letter from Brody's lawyer. He was filing for bankruptcy. As a creditor, I was being notified that any debts owed to me would be discharged. The $71,000 was officially gone. Not that I'd expected to see it again, but having it in writing was somehow satisfying. Confirmation that I'd been right to walk away. There was a handwritten note attached. Brody's writing, worse than I remembered. Hope you're satisfied. You destroyed this family. Miley left me. The baby's not mine. Mom won't talk to me. Dad's disappointed. All because you couldn't be there when I needed you. Some brother you turned out to be. I read it once, then fed it through the shredder and took out the trash. He still didn't get it. Still couldn't comprehend that actions have consequences. That family isn't an excuse for exploitation, but that wasn't my problem anymore. It's been a year and a half now, since I canceled that cruise. The fraud trial wrapped up 6 months ago. Brody got convicted, sentenced to 18 months probation, and court-ordered restitution of the $11,240 from the fraudulent account. He'll be paying me $200 a month for the next 5 years. I'll believe it when I see it, but the conviction alone was worth showing up to testify. Mom tried to contact me through a letter to my work address afterward. Didn't read it. Gave it to Claudia, who sent another cease and desist. Haven't heard from her since. Dad had a minor stroke 4 months ago. I found out through Mrs. Callahan's Facebook post asking for prayers. I didn't call or visit, just noted it in my mental ledger and moved on. He's recovering fine, apparently. Good for him. I'm in the best shape of my life. Jiu-jitsu and hiking will do that. My savings account has 6 figures. My retirement is maxed out. My condo is paid off. I have 0 debt and actual wealth accumulation happening. I'm seeing someone. Her name's Kate. She's a civil engineer, works for the city, climbs in her spare time. We met at a mountaineering course in Boulder. She's smart, has her own shit together, and doesn't need me to fix her life. We're taking it slow, seeing where it goes. Last month, I bought a new truck. Ram 2500, diesel, fully loaded. Not because I needed it, but because I wanted it and could afford it, without checking whether someone else needed money first. I'm happy. Actually happy. But then, this happened. The final showdown. It was last Tuesday when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Brody, standing on my porch. He looked terrible. Probably lost 30 pounds, unshaven, clothes that had seen better days. He was clearly violating the restraining order. 500 feet meant he shouldn't be anywhere near my building, let alone at my door. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and opened the door. Didn't step outside, just stood in the doorway. You're violating a restraining order. You've got 60 seconds before I call the cops. Nick, I need to talk to you. 55 seconds. I know I screwed up. I know I was a horrible brother, but I'm drowning here. Miley left me. The kid's not mine. Paternity test confirmed it. Mom and Dad won't talk to me. I'm living in my truck. I lost my apartment. I just need, let me guess, money. He looked at the ground. I need $500. Just to get back on my feet. I'll pay you back, I swear. Like you paid back the other $71,000? Like you paid back the restitution you owe me? Nick, I'm your brother. You committed fraud. You harassed me. You treated me like an ATM for years. You and Mom and Dad all did. And now that the money's gone, you're suddenly interested in being brothers? Plus, you're violating a restraining order right now just by being here. That's not fair. I have nowhere else to go. That's not my problem. You're an adult. Adults handle their own mistakes. Please, Nick, I'm begging you. I looked at him, saw the desperation, the collapse of everything he'd built on other people's money, saw karma in real time, and felt nothing. Here's what's going to happen, Brody. You're going to leave my property. You're going to figure out your own life. You're going to stop looking for someone to bail you out and start being responsible for your own choices. And you're never going to contact me again. You're just going to let me fail? I'm going to let you figure your shit out. Now get off my property. He stared at me for a long moment. I could see him cycling through arguments, manipulations, angles, looking for the button that would make me cave. He wouldn't find it. That person didn't exist anymore. Finally, he turned and walked away. Got into a beat-up Toyota I didn't recognize. drove off. I closed the door. Then I made dinner, opened a good bottle, and sat on my balcony watching the sun set over the mountains. My phone was silent. No crisis calls, no guilt trips. Just me, good view, and a peaceful life. Brody would probably tell everyone I'd refuse to help him in his time of need. Mom would probably keep crying about her heartless son. Dad would probably shake his head in disappointment. And I didn't care. Their narrative didn't control me anymore. I was too busy living. I raised my glass to the sunset, to new beginnings, to boundaries, to self-respect, and to finally being free. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.